Hello, hello. Welcome to the King Heroes Journey podcast. My name is Beth Martins, and I saw some of my friends in the chat, so I thought I would come on a bit early. And Amanda will be with us when she's ready. So, welcome everyone. Glad you're here. Super excited. This is a redo. We tried to do this in June, and it didn't work out with everything. So, I'm going to get Rockfin going now. And I did share a link in the chat. So, if anybody prefers Rockfin, you can head over there. And hello, Polly. I'm not going to pronounce it. Golitry, Goltery, something like that. How did I do? Nice to have you here anyway. And Joe Potter is here, and Voice of Reason. Welcome, Missy Bear, and her partner are on a road trip. So I hope you have a safe drive and enjoy listening while you're driving. I feel a road trip calling me. I want to go to the States. I want to go somewhere. It's annoying to be in Manitoba because anything that's decently close to us is North Dakota, and that's it. And nothing against North Dakota. We like it better than Canada. I would actually live there as opposed to here. But and welcome DJ Hazelton 13. Nice to see you. Exciting to hear the truthers talk. Yeah, it's really fun. Good synergy. I also love it. This is one of the most amazing things that I get to do in my work. And I like talking to you guys. So come and say hi in the chat. If you're just joining, we are live to Facebook and YouTube and X. Maybe I'll post a link out on X. See how that works. Still calls it Twitter. That's all right. That's fine. Oh, and interesting. I think X is not working. So it's given me a 404. Darn it. I don't know. That's a little hit and miss these days. And we're live on Rumble as well. So if you're in the Rumble chat, do say hello. I'm hoping that my chat gets to you. It's run by YouTube. So today we're talking about taking great care and what that actually is like behind the scenes in real life, because it's a good thing to talk about. A lot of nurturers out there. We've been running the Nurture Cure course. It's been amazing. I have to say, it's brought up and out of me so many things that would have just stayed in there if I hadn't decided to make this commitment. And Billing Tano is here. Fantastic. You got your connection on. I'm glad you made it. Yeah. So we just had week 2, and we're going to talk about the nurturer, what that's like up close and personal with Amanda, who I love very much, and looks like she's starting to get on. And welcome, Amanda. You can just take your time. If you need any time, just give me a thumbs up when you feel ready to come on. You're not late. I just decided to come on a bit early and say hi to people since I was here sitting looking at my screen. And you'd love to hear what Amanda thinks of the Trumbull's Stiltskin shenanigans. Oh, there you go. I know it's been all the topic now, right? That's what everybody's talking about. And I think you guys know by now, it is the mass distraction. It's the thing to get us off our game, to get us like watching every single little video and the replay of the shooting 600,000 times. I went for the 3rd time and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm done studying this and looking at this. Just go back to my work and do my thing. And Joe Potter sending some love to Amanda. That's really nice. And that's what we can do for nurturers, is really truly love each other. Sometimes that love gets so mixed up that it's not really love anymore. And that's one of the things that we might talk about, how twisted that nurturer can get. And false awakening, whereby the steadily waking masses of freedom lovers are duped once more into falling for fake heroes and messiahs and stealthily manipulated into supporting their own enslavement. Yep, you said it. There you go. And Glenn J is here. Nice to see you. And Trumbull Stiltskin is fake and gay. That's what I said. Fake and gay. You got it. And so Amanda, did I miss your thumbs up? Are you ready to come on? She's all ready. Okay, fantastic. Welcome.
Hey, Beth.
Great to have. So great to have you.
How are you? Yeah, good to see you.
I'm not hearing you. Is it me? Let me just check my settings where
can you hear me?
Audio is going to. Oh, yeah, it's me. It's me.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes, I panicked my guests that way.
This is difficult for me to do lives in the summertime because I have so many trees that it delays a lot of things, but
Those damn
Hopefully it'll
trees.
come through all right. Yeah. Damn trees.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have a mixed relationship. I got trees that block out the sunset now and some of the light and stuff like that, which is good on a hot day, not as good on a cool day. But super glad you could make it here. I'm glad that we have a chance to have this talk. As I mentioned earlier, we were going to do this in June and it didn't work out, but here we are, and it's perfect timing. So, and you hear Amanda, great. Yeah, good. It was just me. Okay, so we'll get right into it. For anybody out there who doesn't know Amanda, which is probably not that many people in the truth world, because you've definitely got out there and made such a name for yourself. But in case anybody's watching or catching the recording, I'll let them know that ADV, as we call her, sometimes I avoid using the name just because your name alone can be censored. But she's a renowned health expert, best-selling author with an impressive breadth of knowledge on natural healing and holistic wellness. With over 20 years of experience in the field, ADV is a sought-after speaker and educator who inspired countless individuals to take control of their health and live vibrant, thriving lives. Amazing. ADV's passion for natural healing and alternative medicine was sparked at an early age. I'm going to be asking you about this if you can share any details. And she's dedicated her life to studying and sharing her knowledge with others. Her deep understanding of the human body and its innate ability to heal has itself led her to develop a range of powerful natural remedies that have helped thousands of people overcome chronic illness and achieve optimal health. And I see it on a regular basis. I'm in your private association where we catch your calls each week, and you're tirelessly helping everybody. And I learn something new every single time. So I do recommend joining that private forum if you haven't already. Some of ADV's greatest contributions to the health and wellness community are her websites, YumNaturals.store, Yummy.doctor, which I've got up, DMSO.store, which I know is there because you can't sell anything with DMSO on a regular website. It had to be a special one. You do have to be a member also for healing with DMSO.com. And that's just a formality so that it can all be done in the private and have no interference from the public. So these comprehensive online resources provide a wealth of solutions and information on natural healing, including articles, videos, and podcasts on a variety of topics, ranging from nutrition and detoxification to frequency medicine and natural remedies. This is something I'll say about the nurturer right away. It's a fantastic cure for the nurturer, is to create resources that many people can take in. So you're not just always troubleshooting with the individual and you have to start fresh every time. You can say, go to this article, go to that training, go to that course. Amanda teaches the truth about this world, gentle or blunt. And her breadth of knowledge delves into politics, law, physics, philosophy, corrected history, and cosmology. She's been a voice of sound logic during the pandemic, calling out the hoax on day one, experiencing backlash via violent cancel culture and various harassments, and losing huge social media accounts, etc. She's one of the members of the esteemed Team No Virus, exposing the fraud of virology and the lies of germ theory. With extensive knowledge and experience, coupled with a commitment to empowering others to live their best lives, ADV is truly a beacon of light in the health and wellness community, and she can swear like a trucker too. I want to throw another word in there. So very good. You can, again, you can find her at yumnaturals.store, yummy.doctor, which is on screen, dmso.store, healingwithdmso.com, and she also has a Patreon under the name YumNaturals. All right, Amanda, thank you so much for being. Go ahead.
Thank you. And Substack is, I've just started my podcast there. My first was on cults, and it's also free for Yummy.doctor upper 2-tier membership. And as we add more bonuses in there.
That's good.
So
And
thank you.
You're welcome. If you have a link and you want to drop your Substack into the private chat here, I can put that up. And Billy Todd is saying, fuck yeah, 100%. DMSO store. Thank you, Paul, for sharing that. You guys can click on the chat in that. And and just DMSO. It's a fun thing. I'm so grateful for your stream that you did with me, so I could ask all my questions. I'm using it confidently and getting results, and starting to experiment a little bit, combining it with this and that. And I've got a calendula cream that's like not very good on your skin, meaning it makes it really sticky and can stay on and feel like it's a film. But I notice if I use it with the DMSO that it just actually goes right into my skin and drinks it in. So
That's
super good.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So would you like to share with us what that was at a young age that made you? We're going to talk about the nurture archetype and your healing profession, your will to serve in all of these different ways we talked about. And what was that early happening in your life, a turning point where you decided you wanted to serve and help others?
Well, it started with the love of animals, ultimately. I felt very connected to the cats that we had in the house, and I felt just connected to nature automatically to the point where I didn't understand that there was anything else. um, I think if a child is allowed to just uh, believe what they believe. And in my case, I wasn't really talking openly about it anyway. So there wasn't anyone to shut me down on my thoughts. Then that's a natural development. Um, and I really just wanted to care for animals that were in need. And oftentimes they would just find me. There were many animals that would just come to me injured that I would help, or they were ready to cross over, and I would give them mantra and love and energy through my hands so that their transition was peaceful. I found it kind of just normal. I thought this was I thought this was what it was for everybody when I was really young. And so actually I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a painter, but I thought I couldn't do that for money. So I switched into, well, this is a natural thing for me to help animals. And so I went to my training to become a veterinarian. And that's sort of how I launched into the healing arts when I was denied that because I wanted to use natural remedies as a veterinarian. And that wasn't accepted whatsoever, especially back then. It was even worse. So I just had a mentor, and he suggested that I go to naturopathic college and walk that path. And it was felt like sort of an offer in a way, and I accepted it. And here I am, with all of these years' experience and learning how to help people help themselves. Ultimately, is where I've come to with the creation of Yummy.Doctor, which is what it's about, to doctor yourself, to teach people how to be empowered, how to understand their bodies, how to triage emergency situations, how to understand basic principles so that you can go to all sorts of natural remedies and intuit them, listen to your body, find what's right for you, and come into balance ultimately. So it started with the love of animals, which I still have today, and I've had many animal clients also. But I even have a course on canine cancer, for example, and I'll do more courses on Yummy.Doctor for animals as well. So how we can avoid the vet as much as possible. It's not always possible, but we're trying to think about our sovereignty, our freedom, and we know what's going on out there, and everything is trying to suppress us or to corral us in some way, and genetically alter things and mess around with the frequency. And I mean, there's a lot coming at us, and the sooner we pull away from a society that is circling the drain, the sooner we're going to have our own peace and be able to foster health and well-being in our communities and in our family. And this is really, I see as the top goal and role right now for people for longevity and to protect their families.
Beautiful. I love that. And there's some overlap with the archetypes here in the nature child that has that deep love for animals, the connection, to life itself through animals and interaction with animals. And sometimes the nature child likes animals more than people and want to stay away from the people. But anyway, just threw that in. The
Mhm.
archetypes don't exist one at a time. It's not like that. Nature's not like that. Everything clusters and combines, and so that's much more natural. But breaking them out is a good way to see the particular ways that you're stuck in potentially shadows. And I just want to say that Paul has shared the link in the chat here. So if you want to click on that, amandavollmer.substack.com and subscribe to that, or her private second tier, I believe, is where you can get those new podcasts that are coming out. So I look forward to that. And so, what's it been like for you in your healing profession to, this is something that there's a lot of nurturers out there that might not have it as a profession. They're just somebody that is, maybe they're the go-to person. Maybe they're the good listener. Maybe they're the mother figure in a community. Maybe they are the actual caregiver of somebody who's not well, that's close to them in their life. And so, what's it like to have a healing profession where you're putting yourself out there on a daily basis and for exchange? How might that have even changed things for you when you did that?
Well, I had to learn through trial and error how to really truly help and support someone else and really focus on them. And in a way, the balance takes time to figure that out. I mean, I got to burn out doing this role, and I have chronic boundary issues because of my empath nature and my moon and Pisces nature and other things. And also my Venus is in Cancer, which is naturally a mothering love. Um, and I've had to really watch where I'm trying to step in and fix. And this has been a habit that I've done throughout my life that still, bites me in the ass to this day. But um, ultimately, I I had to ask the question of really what is love, and what is care, and how do I allow the space for people to feel heard and feel supported without doing self-harm. I mean, without taking on their energies, without just fixing it for them, which is really the modern medicine way, right? Where you hand off the power to the MD and they tell you what's going to happen to your body. And that dynamic where you're trying to guide someone but still wanting to walk a delicate path toward their own empowerment and not take that from them. And also not, be in a space where you're and fix and not getting any in return, and that dynamic is very one way. So in your own personal life, for as a practitioner, you really have to focus on self-care, and you really need to be with someone who understands you, and can nurture you back and give you what you need in your family life and relationships and things, because it's not really easy to be with someone who's always giving all day long and then they have to give into the rest of their life too. And finding that balance seems to be really the art of all of these types of caring, nurturing, giving sort of professions. I mean, we've seen burnout in these professions all over the place. We've seen people who become cold and hard. I've seen doctors just become cruel and cold and drained and empty and soulless almost, because if you can.
Oh, darn, she was saying something really good there. Yeah, the cruel and hard doctors. If you haven't read my book, I open it by describing a scene with my oncologist, not while I was receiving treatments, but after I had gone into remission and I was actually in the hospital, not getting care, but I was playing music for the other patients who were getting care. So I had survived. I was good enough to come back and be in this role as a job. And I ran into my oncologist and I'm like, hey, Dr. Rubinger, look at me. I didn't die. You told me I wasn't going to make it. And here I am. And he just went absolutely cold, glazed over. I'm like, don't you remember me? He's like, yeah. But he was flatlining, almost not there. Definitely cold, definitely that cruel energy, not even willing to go, oh, good for you, got to go, or anything like that. And and he committed suicide. So I just have to imagine his role as a nurturer was very dark. It's one of the things people don't realize about the nurturer, that it can get to that place of being, some of the most cold and cruel people are nurturers, and that's how the shadow can express, because you get burnt out because you gave too much, because you got out of balance. I have a different take on balance altogether. It's not about balancing on that teeter totter and, how much did I give them and how much did I give myself, and all of that kind of thing. The whole purpose of it is to get off that map, and that like what can be juggling teeter totter kind of exercise. And while we're waiting for Amanda to come back, I'm sure she's trying hard to do that. Talking about, the chronic issues of empaths, and what really, I love that question she asked, what really is love? What is care? Because a lot of times the nurturers, they go to work and they feel on the surface that they're caring and they're giving, and they probably are spending all their time and all their energy and really like going for it in a heroic way. But if you're noticing that people are getting enabled, and you're trying to fix them, then it goes sideways. So, and Amanda is back. Hello, welcome back.
I'm like mid-sentence and it just says something went wrong.
Exactly. Yeah,
There you
I think it
go.
was gonna, yeah, I think it was going to be a good one. I think you were talking about how people can get cruel and cold. And then when you were gone, I told my story about my oncologist who committed suicide, but in the meantime had that just like didn't care. When he saw me, he didn't care that I survived when he told me I would die.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens. And anyway, in medical school, they do warn you about getting too close. And ultimately, I think it's coming from a place of, hey, if you get too deeply, compassionately involved with your patient, you are going to hurt if they die, or you are going to suffer if they're continuing to suffer and you're not able to help them. And especially in that profession where they fail most of the time to help them, that must be very difficult on a soul to realize you've spent all this time and money and energy to go into a profession that is really the third leading cause of death, and you either have to just get along to get on, get on to get along kind of thing. You just have to keep your career going, pay your bills, support your family, but you don't really want to be there. And so when that happens, you check out and compassion drops away. So that's its own kind of enigma. But when it comes to the holistic healing arts, we're far more successful at outcomes. And we also take a lot more time with each patient. And that means we do get to know them quite intimately. Sometimes things that even their own married partners don't know about them. And there's oaths that we take the Hippocratic oath. So the other kind of thing that happens is you're carrying burdens. They will unburden themselves to you, and then you will be carrying their experiences and burdens. And it can be difficult if you don't have anyone to share that with, or to talk with about, what's something very heavy that you may have picked up in transference. So there's really important methods that should be employed for all practitioners to release that from the body and to purge it somehow, so you're not carrying it, but at the same time still being available. I've cried with patients before because I feel them. I'm empathic. I'm in their situation because I find that makes me a very good healer, because I can relate. I can imagine what that might feel like in my body. I can imagine what that might be like to go through something like that. And it's very cathartic when you allow people to really fully express themselves and really hear what they have to say. But what is also very potent is the patient will often describe very much what's wrong and what the diagnosis is, and even what the way to their resolve is, if you listen closely. And so really good listening skills are key for the nurturer, but it's really can be difficult to be on that or playing that role all day long and then come home to your kids and play it again and keep, being the giver in the situations, right? so I can totally understand when practitioners just can't do it anymore, for their own health. But ultimately, having a good exercise routine, good meditation practice, some way of even shaking and clearing or releasing, whether you're doing something like emotional freedom technique where you're tapping it out, or you're doing other types of like shaking or movement to physically remove any secondary trauma that you might have picked up, and not just build it up into your body. Because that can lead to disease of your own. And I remember in naturopathic college how many practitioners died young. And I went, what is about this? I mean, is this just they're working too hard or what? But then I started to understand, no, it's because they're really caring, and they're really giving, and they're really loving, and they're really selfless. And they feel that self-sacrifice is the most godly way to be. And in a way they're right, but also you're someone too. And you deserve love too, and you are of God too. So you need to remember that that's not selfish. To care for yourself is not selfish, especially when you're a giver. It's like priority, because you now have to give all day. You have to do it. And if you want to survive and thrive, then this is key. And then, of course, also teaching your patients the exact same thing, because many would come burnt out by their own lives, by their own giving. And I'd even see cases of actual certain types of cancers, especially breast cancers, actually, where these were the most selfless people I've ever met, to the point of fault, to the point where they're so diminished and drained. Their bosom, is like being given away. And I've seen that many, many times in mainly, women who they have many kids, or they're taking care of their husbands, or they're mothering their husbands, and they're not seen. They're not cared for well. So this is also another layer of teaching and healing that has to become part of the story. It's not just about the physical health aspects. You have to look at their patterns, recognize where they're suffering and where it's really coming from, and then gently guide them toward just taking charge of their lives for their own betterment, for their own selves, and how when they're fueled, then they have more fuel to give. We know this. Knowing it is one thing, but actually employing it is a whole other thing.
Exactly. And that's why I felt so called to offer this course on deprogramming the nurturer, because oftentimes, especially if you have any, you've meditated, you've looked inward, you're not shy to see where you're responsible for things, then you can see the pattern, but you can't let the pattern go, or you can't stop acting in that same pattern. And to me, it's a matter of programming. But you said so much just in terms of here's one thing that, like, don't get close, that doctors are taught. Don't open your heart. Don't, and what's actually, yes, all of the modalities and the herbs and the whatever you're offering in terms of treatment is healing and can be healing, but the real healing thing is love. Right. So it's the one ingredient those doctors are told and trained not to have. And I think that's very easy for them, because if you love, then you're going to have pain, like you said, actually even crying with a patient and being there right inside their experience. And you have to go through that. The beauty is that it's, to me, it is actually really beautiful pain, because you're feeling it for the other. And with any luck, not taking it on and carrying it yourself, which I think, to me, it's more accurate to say just brought up pain of your own that you didn't necessarily become aware of yet. And so I don't believe in the taking other people's pain on thing. I think that's part of how that empath world got taken sideways and make us all feel like victims. I was actually watching a movie called Sensitive last night. I don't know if you caught this. Alanis Morissette is featured in there. And there's some truth about it. Highly sensitive people, it's this new almost diagnosis, like personality trait, highly sensitive. And part of me just goes like, yeah, bullshit. We're all born sensitive with nerves and with, sensory apparatus that takes in all of the information and is connected to everybody. And then I don't know, have you what's your take on that highly sensitive people thing? I pendulum swung at the end and went, yeah, I'm probably one of those like that.
Well, it's a world where everybody's autistic now, right? Just like everything's spectrumized now. So everyone can get a label and everyone can make other people feel sorry for them. So everyone's a victim now. And I don't like labels at all, actually. I discard any of these. If someone says they're ADD or ADHD, and thank God I have the label because now I have the diagnosis, so now I can get on suppressive drugs. This is missing the point. This is if you have neurological damage, then you have neurological damage, and you should probably take my heavy metals cleansing course, my detox course, and get yourself right, instead of, oh, now I have the label I can use as a crutch and I can explain away some of my, behaviors and attitudes and mistakes and things without actually really acknowledging them and really owning them and really being okay with the discomfort that brings and the sensations of, perhaps guilt or shame or any of the energies around what you think you're supposed to be, and embrace that there's been some probably vaccine damage, here. And that's the real, root cause. And now let's clean it up. Right. And the same thing with the whole sensitive thing. Well, why you're sensitive is, well, and what is that even defined as? Sensitive what, in what way? Because are you sensitive again because you're vaccine injured and your nervous system's on fire, or your hormones are imbalanced so that your emotions are a wreck and so you're all over the place and everything triggers you because you haven't done any shadow work, you haven't integrated that stuff, and or you grew up in an abusive household and you were the scapegoat, and now you have like all of this empathic skill because you had to get those skills to survive. But that can actually makes great healers. But you still have wounds. There are still wounds that have to be dealt with, and especially when the woundology is really young, when it happens really young, it's kind of ingrained in you. I mean, it's sort of part of you, and so now you're, instead of necessarily having to like just get rid of the trait, you're just adapting the trait, and you're just acknowledging and just, I'm accepting it, but I'm not using it as a label or as an excuse for any type of behavior. And that takes, it's not saying you're going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. This is part of life. We have all sorts of things that trigger us or challenge us because it's what life's about. Life isn't about a cakewalk. It's literally about challenges. I mean, if you study astrology, your entire chart, all your challenges are literally right in there. I mean, I've been studying it again because I've been studying my daughter's chart, and it's accurate to a T. I mean, even down to the physiology and the types of illnesses and things that we get. So what I'm saying is that there are challenges before us, and we're meant to overcome them, and we're meant to learn from them and grow from them, and not stay stuck in some sort of diagnosis just because you've had traumas that have happened. We're meant to overcome them. We're meant to integrate them. And I think we just get kind of lost in these labels, like, I'm a highly sensitive person, I'm special, give me a gold star. It means that I can get away with some more bullshit with my behavior. And I think a lot of people use that. Not everybody. I mean, legitimately, people feel when they get a label that they can calm down. I mean, some minds are like, okay, now I know what's kind of wrong with me or what's been going on, or I have a whole bunch of other people that are like me. I'm not alone. Like, I totally understand the need to feel connection, to have understanding, and to have some sort of guide of what might be going on in your body. But that's not meant to be where you stay. That's just the beginning of the healing process. Now you continue on, and yeah, you can have people who have the similar thing that you can share with and be heard. But you should really not say, it's like sometimes people get stuck in like religions or other, groups where they want to be connected, but unless the religion or whatever the teaching is helping you grow and helping you connect to, in the case of religion, spiritually grow, connect to God, or feel that connection, and embellish love, and be able to release in safety, if you have to cry in your congregation, or to be uplifted, there's all these goals. But if to stay stuck or to spiral down even in those situations, that's really not what it's meant to be about, right? I think they're all just presentations and offers for us to step up into our power again and integrate all of these experiences for our maximum soul growth, which I always think is the purpose of the whole point of why we're even here at all.
Exactly. It's the hero's journey, not the tiptoe through the tulips. Yeah, it's going to be challenged one way or another. When I had a border incident, my people might be hearing this again, but I made a mistake at the border and I got myself flagged for 7 years by using the word extortion when they tried to charge me for something, and resulted in a very big, aggressive surge and a lot of trauma. Actually, I'm still healing from that trauma. Unfortunately, we got really bad threats. That was the only thing they actually did to us. But they were, they took my car key, they locked the truck, they took all our possessions, they took my license, they took the registration that had expired. Bad idea on my part, and fought behind a closed door about our fate. And actually, it was amazing because it really taught me to let go of all of my fear and aggression and everything in between. And I just released and released and released and released. And next thing you know, they opened the door, came out, and basically let us off with everything except the flag. And you will be delayed every time you come back into Canada. I'm like, I love Canada. This is so great. I just love it. And
Unbelievable.
I know it's wild, but it did teach me, the point of that was that it taught me how I want, because one way or the other, you're going to have challenges on the hero's journey. And are you going to have those challenges because you make mistakes and you do stupid things and you're a rebel without a cause, in my case? Or are you going to have challenges because you're creating something in your vision for the service of others based on the excess that you have gained in your life? And I strongly chose for that second thing. And then I went into high-speed creation mode, and I did make a lot of trouble for myself, a ton of it, but it's all purposeful, not purposeless, like just licking wounds after a bad encounter. So yeah, very good. Boy, there's so many things I want to talk about. Just to mention the vicarious trauma that is a real thing. When as a coach, I've been privy to, like you say, they may tell nobody what they're telling me. It's horrendous. It's beyond imagination. I actually can't tell anybody. I'm in confidence. And so it leaves the nurturers with a whole lot of stuff that can be unobvious to them. And today in the Nurture Cure class, we talked about the nurturer's persona and the identity as a nurturer, that role that gets played, and how it can be like a mask that you put on and can take off. It's one of those, like, you just wear it, and it's very expensive. It costs a lot of energy to maintain a persona. And one of the side effects, the bad side effects, is that it can make everybody think that you're Superwoman or Superman, and you don't need any support at all. So the nurturers can be there like, oh yeah, well, I help everybody. Now I'm down, and where's my support?
Yeah. And that's like the really where the root of that is no self-worth, low or no self-worth, self-care, or deep unseated shame about the self. And it's a compensation. It's a compensation to try to fix the brokenness of you in the outside, from, to the external world. And it can put you into a victimhood state where, because when you burn out and now you need help for sure, but in a bad way, right? And it's an attempt at also a call for care, because people who are in that type of trauma or experience trauma where they were not heard as children, their needs were not met as children, they had to make, get their own needs met, which is ridiculous, because that's not what a child's supposed to do at that stage, right? Then they get really quiet about their needs. They just try to satisfy them without asking for help. If there's guilt to ask for help, and they often will go into these types of, giving types of professions. And, if you're not doing that consciously, if you're really not aware of your drives, it can really put you in a bad place. And I've walked that path. I know exactly what that looks like. And I had to go through all kinds of layers of healing for my own self to come into balance with how I am approaching another individual and trying to care for them. And, it's still an exercise in boundaries. It's still an exercise in patience with the self, and accepting when you've made a mistake, or when you've overshared or overgiving, and you really looking at, is there any agenda underneath this, or is it really coming from pure love? And so I'm at the point now where I won't do it unless I do feel that it is genuine, that it is going to really benefit that individual. And more I'm realizing that it's just about helping them to help themselves, and not to do it for them. That was the big mistake that I really was doing. I would just magically take away their pain and magically take away their disease. And even though they were learning a new skill set and how to apply this medicine and understand it, it was still a power dynamic that wasn't really quite balanced. It was still doc, tell me what to do kind of stuff. And I've moved on from this type of modeling, but the pendulum swing will come where, what is my boundary? So you play with that. You're like, okay, I will expand the boundary. What does that feel like? Okay, I will bring the boundary right into myself. What does that feel like? And we're always experimenting with that. And then as we grow, we're always changing. And so just when you think you've got it, a whole new set of challenges will come in to how you're engaging with the world and what your role is within it. And I'm sure you can speak to the different archetypes and how they, traverse through your own growth, and how they can alter based on your experiences and the lessons that you've learned, and ultimately to find yourself a grounded, balanced human who is able to nurture and give love, but not become taken advantage of, or losing yourself to another person or another situation, which is easy to say and harder to do.
Yeah, like you say, it's a moving target, right? Life keeps happening. And if you're on a path of growth and having more and more strength, then you have the capacity to take on more and more challenge. And that happens, right? You think that growing makes you have less and less problems, but in a way it's the other way around, because you've expanded your capacity to take on more, and never mind the collective, right? That what's happening at that level. It's why I was telling my class today, the secret agenda is that more and more people can do this, because every time someone new takes on the practice of healing and deprogramming, they make it easier for the other to do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's very good. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is a revelation I had on an osteopath table about my birth, because and someone asked me specifically about this, so I thought I would bring it up with you. And he said something that was in my neck was likely to be a birth trauma of some kind, and I'm still working on that. And so when he's doing the body work, I'm imagining my birth. And I remembered my mom telling me, when I asked her, how did my birth go? I was 7 months pregnant, and I was just trying to get an idea if there's any inheritance I should watch out for, and try to prevent with some inner work. And she says to me, like, who knew? I don't remember 1 second of it. She had a twilight birth. She was all drugged up on, what is it, morphine and scopolamine or something like that?
Oh my
Scopolamine,
God. Yeah.
right? The amnesia drug. And they don't even black out. They're like they're not there, and they're totally compliant. It's also a compliance drug. Really scary stuff, actually. I know. And then there's accounts of women being abused and children being abused under those drugs and stuff like that. I won't go into, it's not my subject. But so what I noticed, I am imagining myself being birthed to this woman who was gone. She was gonzo. And I registered that she was dying. And I could feel that's exactly when my nurturer got born, because the nurturer that was supposed to be receiving me in that moment, and this is not against my mom at all, it wasn't there. So I did this compensation thing. Okay, well, I'm the nurturer. Maybe I can save my mom like this, right? And it all of a sudden made sense why our society is chock full of nurturers. And for the most part, people don't have good boundaries in that quality, right? That it's just been so consistent over the course of my work. And I saw also how they killed her nurturer in that moment, because that's exactly when you download all of that, how to raise the child and how to be there for them. And she just didn't catch that part. And it wasn't until nearly she is passed away, I got her to do my archetype quiz. She came up the nurturer, and I'm like, huh, really? Because she wasn't experiencing the gifts, let's say, about it. And she admitted, and she said all kinds of things to me that it really gave her a lot of pain to be in that nurturing role. So is there anything that you would want to share or add about birth and what goes on for the average person? It's like such a horrendous shit show.
Oh my gosh, I mean, where to begin though? We've really done things ass backwards in so many ways, and ultimately it's nobody's fault, okay? We come from abusive houses. We have parents who don't know what the hell they're doing because nobody's given them any information, or there's propaganda all over the place for exactly the opposite, right? I mean, it's hard to navigate it as parents, and there's a society that's built that's everyone's in their own little boxes. We've lost the tribe. We've lost generational living, where you would have an entire family unit raising the children and getting the care and nurture that they need, especially from grandparents. And instead, the grandparents are shoved into the homes, and everybody's kind of independent and running on their own. And childhood is meant to be for play. I mean, I remember studying in university about animals, and I was like, why do animals play? I mean, what what do they need play for? And it's like, well, that's how they learn all their skills is with play. And that made so much sense. I mean, they're play fighting, they're pretending to chase food, they're chasing their own tails sometimes, they're learning how to get along with their siblings. All kinds of things are happening with play. And we're more and more taking play away from our children as the devices get in their hands, right? They're not learning to be creative. They're not learning how to fall down and get up properly. They're not, getting dirty. They're not, they're becoming dulled by this passive learning where they're not activating parts of their self. And so there's that whole problem. I actually had a really profound sacred grandfather tobacco ceremony right before the ayahuascas that I did. And I had asked about, to show me where my Woundology still is, and so what I was shown was from birth until now, every single time there was abandonment, or I felt abandoned in my life, because that's one of my wounds. And this began in my crib, believe it or not. My first memory that was shown to me was me in my crib crying in pain alone. And that gave me the first sensation of feeling abandoned. And again, there's no blame. I'm not angry, nothing like that. We have to accept that this is the way it was. I mean, this is how you bought a crib, you made a nice baby room, you put your baby off in the little prison cell, and you go do you, right? And it's not to say that they weren't struggling with what was happening, but because I had colic for 2 years, and they were feeding me terrible formula and milk and dairy, and I was sensitive to it, and they couldn't source it. And instead of my mother being nurtured by her doctor to how to breastfeed and why it's important, they were told quite the opposite, that that's nonsense, and that formula is the new way, or the cool way, or the look how far technology's come kind of way. Same thing with those crazy drugs, right? This is the way. Strap you down, drug you out, no pain, have a good old time. The whole human experience is removed when this happens. And so then I went to the next stage, so it just kept showing me every time that pattern kept emerging because of the root core wound, right? And this is what is critical. When we have a wound, it will keep opening up and showing us the wound in other people. We'll project onto people so that we can, because others are our mirrors, we can't really see ourselves, right? We have to use others as mirrors in order to understand who we are. And I could see how it shaped me in a lot of ways, where I would almost rather be alone than be independent, I would become radically independent to protect myself from being left behind in that way. And it affected a lot of my relationships, of course, because how can you really get close and intimate with someone when you think that's too vulnerable? Because if they leave you, that's too much pain, right? So over the years, it took me a lot of healing to actually open up and be vulnerable, in a partnership, so that I could, let them in, really share who I was in all its glory, whether it's messy or not, because I expect my mate to see me, and that, I think that's a beautiful thing. So, and people, of course, take advantage of that too. But all of that is part, so there's that aspect. And then there's the parenting your parents thing. that and that's really tricky, because again, the way our society is, like, our parents get elderly, they need care. How are we going to do this? How are we going to manage our busy lives, struggling financially, still raising our own children, and now care for the parent? And especially if you have dysfunctional dynamics, it can be almost impossible, or it's really not functional to do it. But it's not, it can seem really cruel to just leave them. But are you really serving your parents to now take the role of parent and treat them like a child? It's really a tricky place to be in. And I'm sure there's all kinds of nuances and ways that can be done. But ultimately, the dynamic can become very dysfunctional when the roles are reversed, when the child is not treated as such, and when the parents don't even know how to truly be parents and give the care and the safety needed for a real freedom in childhood. And I could go on and on about it, but ultimately we have to rebirth ourselves, which I actually did. Leonard Orr's Rebirthing in the New Age. I read that book, and then I was so inspired. I thought, I know I have damage from when I know I had colic for a long time, so I assumed that must have sucked. And so I put myself in a bath, and I stayed in it, I think, for 8 or 9 hours, until I had a birth, until I remembered my birth, because I didn't remember my birth. And my mother was drugged, and it wasn't really that fun of an emerging. But I did, and it was very profound. I felt extremely emotional. I literally cried like a baby, like wailing like a baby would. And it was important. It was an important piece to who I became, to do that. So it's just something for people to consider. There's different ways to go through rebirthing. There's more guidance. I don't really recommend doing what I did, kind of going in hard and doing it by yourself, because a lot of memories can come up, a lot of pain can come up, and you really should have proper support if you do rebirthing. But it is a thing that people can look up and find, a practitioner that does this sort of thing. It's in water, and you're even underwater for a while, and sometimes even give you a straw. So you're literally like in the womb, that sensation in the womb, and then emerging out of it, and it triggers the memory. And then support is there to help you through that integration, and it puts you into adulthood really well. It puts you into your body again. So just something I wanted to mention, because we have a lot of healing to do, and there's many ways to do it, but you might feel called to this particular method. And there are others, of course, but that was really potent for me, just to accept that broken inner child baby stage. And then I realized, I have to do the inner child at the stage, age 2, and also age 4, and also age 5, and also, like, that's not over. Oh, great. But it's really important work.
It really is. Yeah, that's amazing. I've gone through a lot of different rebirth processes myself. There's a bunch of them out there, and it really is about revisiting that. Not so much about past lives. I don't get into that exploration at all. But yeah, finding the places where you left yourself behind, where you couldn't go forward in consciousness. There was one time when I was very sick with cancer, actually, and I was seeing a therapist at the time. God bless him. There was a certain value, not a huge amount, but and I found myself in the corner of his room bawling like a 2-year-old, saying, "I just want to be loved." Like this, and it was a massive breakthrough. I actually cried for 2 weeks after that. The tap turned on, and it just was emptying out this wound, and not forever. I ran into other layers of it down the line, but not to that degree at all. I was also reminded of the work of Marion Woodman. I don't know if you're familiar with her at all, and she. I was just hearing this on I think it was a cassette way back in the day about how when you're being born, if there is some kind of a problem being born, or say it was like an unexpected, unwanted pregnancy, especially, and then there can be this tendency to abort the mission because you even maybe you came out of the birth canal, but there was an energetic abortion in the process, and how a lot of people can go into creative pursuits and they keep one way or another with self-sabotage or whatever mechanism that you would use to make sure you don't get born into that new role, new whatever it is, place in your life, new relationship. So yeah, it's amazing that we can have any relationships at all in this world. And then just regarding the radical independence, how from day one, my parents were saying, put that baby down. You're going to make him a dependent. You're going to make him a mama's boy. Don't let him suck on you. Oh, you're his soother. You're his plastic soother. It's like, no, I'm his mother. And I tried very hard to have this baby, and I'm hiring myself for this role, and shut up. I'm holding my child until he doesn't need to be held anymore. Like I did the knee jerk pendulum, right? Like they were the hands off, you're off in your own room, doesn't cry it out. Like apparently it's making a comeback, Michelle said in the chat. Ouch. That's
No.
hideous. We were going a good direction in attachment parenting, and so I went the other direction, and I tried to do absolutely everything possible. I did a free birth, by the way, to give my son anything and everything that he needed. I did in fact go off the edge. I broke my back doing it because he needed to be carried, and he was a big fat baby, juicy baby. But I don't regret it for 1 second. He magically gained independence the moment I broke my back. Like he sort of sensed it. Like, yeah, I'm good now. I'm a 2-year-old. I can just be on my feet instead of in your arms. And so it worked out. But I think what you said earlier too about society and how desperately unnatural. We don't have the grandparents. We're actually the main ones to be looking after the children, because that when you're in childbearing years, you're still in your prime. You've got so much potential to do so much work, and we just don't really have that anymore at all. So
No.
moms are left on their own to their own devices, or even two parents is not nearly enough.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my daughter, the 4th trimester. So she was never put down except for sleep, when I was going to sleep, I mean. So all through the day, she was on me. If I had to go to the bathroom, sure, whatever. Yeah, shower together, everything. And, I was a single mom for the most part here. So it just made sense anyway. I'm vacuuming with her on me, strapped to me. I'm washing dishes with her, and she's watching, and she's interested, and she feels secure. I co-slept with her until she was 4. I breastfed her till she was nearly 3. And she is the most powerful, independent, like strong-willed 12-year-old you'd ever want to meet. She's confident. She goes up to people and she makes play date arrangements with all her friends. She's the one who does it. She'll call their parents instead of me. She'll say, "Don't worry, I'll call the parents and I'll ask the parents, and then I'll relay it." Like she's like, she wants to have friends, and she wants to have a life, and she wants to do things, and she's making it happen for herself. Sometimes she says to me, I wish you had another so I could have a sibling." I said, "Well, yeah, there's good and bad to both scenarios, like I said, just accept that this is what you have now." And I understand that you want to play all the time and have fun all the time. But this is your life now. And I even thought maybe I would adopt someone, another child, but unfortunately, the adoption agencies are so crazy. I just couldn't get involved with them, because I'm not vaccinating that child. So we're not going to meet minds here. They're not going to let me adopt if I'm not going to vaccinate a child. So I know that's probably pretty impossible, but I would do it. It's just that the system is very deliberately funneling, especially that kind of scenario where they're trying to control things. But yeah, it's a testament. The attachment parenting, all you have to do is look at the outcome. Same with, you don't take your child to the doctor. The outcome is right there in your face. Like, these kids don't get sick. They don't have ADD. They don't have autism. They don't have these things when you clean your body before pregnancy and, have your hormones in check and don't poison them. So the proof's in the pudding, as I say, right? And if the attachment style was making them into, cling monsters, then you would see that. But that's not what we see. We see that they become extremely independent. They want their freedom. They feel secure. They feel safe. Their nervous systems feel calm and regulated. They can accept challenges without melting into a puddle, and, we have children who are resilient now because of this. And I wish for more parents to accept that it's hard work. You will be, right when they're young, it's all on them. But then later it works for you because you're going to have a regulated child that will not be causing all this distress in your life, and you will have more free time after that. And in fact, you'll miss them. You'll be like, hey, come hang out with me, So I think it's a really great thing to focus on and for parents to learn. And that's upsetting that parents are letting them cry out. And it's probably because they're all vaccine injured. They're very difficult babies. Yes. And their hormones are imbalanced. And so mother's got postpartum depression and father's working his ass off, or they both have to work because they can't make ends meet, right? How are you going to be there energetically to nurture that child when you're burnt out from society's, burdens? And I think that's where we're seeing some danger now and why that would be coming back.
I hear you. And I just want to add that it's not impossible. I was highly compromised as a new mom. I was more or less on my own. Even the dad was in the picture, but I was on my own parenting every day. And it was impossible. Every single day was impossible. I would always things were undone. I couldn't do the whole job. I couldn't meet every single possible need. But I mean, partly it's good because it's a temporary state and they grow into independence. And like you said, proof is in the pudding that for all of that care that I gave, I have an incredibly secure 17-year-old. And he never wet the bed and he never cried getting dropped off. I never get a call in the middle of the night from a sleepover, Mommy, I need you. And he doesn't need me. I'm the one, I put myself in his life now. Like that's how it goes. He really doesn't even think to need me for anything. And this is actually a subject I wouldn't mind talking about. You can just let me know, by the way, your time if we didn't discuss the timing of the interview. But I was teaching about this, how nurturers end up needing to be needed. And that this is a very deep wound of the nurturer that can, and then when you don't actually want the child to be independent because you thrive on this kind of dependency. So is there anything that you've noticed around that?
Yeah, then you get things like Munchausen by proxy out of that, and you get
what does that mean?
Parent.
I should know.
Munchausen by proxy is when a parent is actually harming the child so that they are getting attention by doctors or other family members. And the parent who's doing it is kind of getting the supply from that. They're getting a secondary, they're living vicariously through their own child. It's a very sick illness because they are trying to get the care through their child instead of getting it directly. And it's very, the child is very messed up after that, of course, not just from being tortured by their own parent, but It's very confusing. Like, this is a parent that's pretending to really love and care for you, and we're really worried about you, and so we should take you to the doctor, and like, look at what's happening to you, and you can't go out because, you know, you might hurt yourself, or, you know, you have this disability now, and so you have to stay with mommy, or you have to stay with daddy, right? And it's usually the mothers. It tends to be more so the mothers that do this, and it's an attachment problem. You know, they're it's like the opposite of what we just described. That's the true attachment problem, where they're now basically abusing the child to feel that they have to depend on the mother just to survive, just to get through all the terrible things that happen to just randomly befall them. And can you imagine the betrayal when they finally find out that their parent was doing this to them, and how the psychology of that alone is, you know, quite alarming. But yeah, the nurture needing nurturing thing, or just where that's in the shadow, that's a nurture in their shadow, right? And then I wouldn't even really call that true nurturing ultimately, because it's just coming from wounds. It's coming from a gap or a hole or a space inside of them where they're haven't been able to satisfy foundational principles like care, or some need that's not being met. And they're just, ultimately, it's damaged inner child trying to act out or trying to manipulate the situation to get the need met, really. It's not the healthy way to do it, of course. But that's ultimately, you know, the dysfunctional aspect of the nurturer. And it's very suppressive. It's very oppressive to be around someone like that. I mean, you probably would want to run from someone who's doing that to you, who's like smothering you, or laying it on you too much, or codependent in their interactions with you. There's no real independent self in those dynamics, right? They need you for every little thing, or they get really upset if they're alone too long, or they're, you know, the constant texting parent or something, where they're like, are you okay now? Are you still okay now? So they are the types that didn't get proper attachment parenting, and they feel insecure. So that's the actual result of, you know, sort of the opposite of what we're saying. They don't get the fourth trimester kangaroo carry, and they don't get, you know, the sleep support if they're shoved alone in their room and this kind of stuff. Yeah, their desire is going to want to be wanting that. And if they already have it, if they're sleeping next to their parent, they don't have that in their mind when they're falling to sleep. Like, where's my parent? I wish I had hugs. I wish I had love. I wish I had touch. That's not even a thing. That's not even an issue. Of course they have it. It's there. It's natural, right? So there's no dysfunction set up. But these are the types of people that are extreme codependents ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. And they end up projecting weakness onto the child, or it could be anybody else, can be your partner, could be your colleague, anybody that you have that secret need for them to need you, so you can be a fixture in their life, so you can ultimately stay safe and survive. The opposite of the purpose of the nurture, which is to give and support and be there. And then that projection ends up being part of, especially if they're young, but it's not exclusively, they take on the persona of being weak so they can fit that jigsaw puzzle together of the other nurturer's need. And it's really like so dysfunctional, and it doesn't create anything good at all. And you won't be happy, and it's a bottomless pit. You can't satisfy a shadow. It never gets full of that. You have to just awaken that. So yeah, that's a really, really sad one. It's amazing how dark that shadow of the nurturer is, because the word nurture just sounds so lovely and loving and soft and feminine. I want to say that it's not exclusive to women at all, or you know, mothers or anything like that. But yeah, it can come in all shapes and forms and sizes. And
Mm-hmm.
if we go to the opposite spectrum, say when you talked about aging parents, and that's super common, where people all of a sudden, the parent has a stroke and boom, you know, you're on call every single day for multiple needs, or someone in your community has a breakdown and they refuse to go to the doctor or something. I'm just thinking of one example. with that, and how you just, the calls to a nurture can be so sudden, and huge interruption of life with aging parents. It's There are some cultures where you literally know that you're growing up to look after your parents when they can't look after themselves anymore. Do you think that's an aberration, a disnature? You sort of implied that earlier, or is there something natural in that obligatory relationship of care?
Well, I think that it never would be like that in a tribal setting, right? Because as the first of all, the elder would be respected. So there's that, right? There's no ageism here. Like actually, like in Japan, as the a parent becomes a grandparent, becomes a great grandparent, is they're the wisdom keepers. They're revered, and that ultimately should be the way, I think, because but
Yeah.
what's happened now is that we degraded this system so that they're not valuable to us. We don't see them as valuable. We see them as discardable. And then it becomes now a burden to care for them. And so the way we're even thinking about it is very modernized and Americanized and this sort of thing. So different cultures obviously treat this, in different ways. Um, but if the tribe was there, or if you had a whole community of family, then everyone would pitch in to ensure that the elder was taken care of, and instead of being put on one individual. And that's sort of what ended up happening. Even in my culture, in German culture, the firstborn female is responsible for the generally for the father, and the firstborn masculine is responsible to take care of the elderly mother. And that's sort of the dynamic that's expected. And there's different cultures that have, different mixes of this particular sort of thing. And I remember I actually lived with a woman. Her name was Josie, and she was, I think, in her 80s. And this is when I was going to naturopathic college, my first year. And I lived in their basement. I rented the basement apartment, but we shared a kitchen, and we shared some space. So I would get to know her a little, and she was fading. She needed help. So her daughter was there to every day. She had to come in and make sure she wasn't burning down the house or doing something wrong, or, eating well and drinking enough water and all these sorts of things. And she was bitter about it after a while. I could see that it was weighing on her. And part of me was like, well, that's not quite right, is it? I mean, I know we want to be honorable, but to have it just all on her shoulders when there's so much also going on in her life, you could tell she was feeling resentment about it. And when she finally passed away, she was so full of resentment that I looked in the garbage, and literally she threw out all her things. She just threw them all in the garbage. And she even threw a lot of her own things in the garbage. It's like she just needed to walk away from all of it. And I don't blame her, to be honest, because it was just on her. Yeah, I mean, this is a problem we need to figure out. I really love the idea. I always loved the idea, and there were a couple examples of it where elders who might need nursing care or other medical care, well, we have a holistic version of it, not not the suppression version of it, but that you mix daycare needs. So parents have daycare needs and they have elder care needs, and you put those two together, right? So you're getting the community, right? You're getting and it works because, I mean, come on. Elders love little kids. Are you kidding? That's like the best thing ever. It's like having puppies. It's like they light up. They have joy to see children just playing, and they might not be able to change their diaper or do that, but you would have like a care facility that does this part. And then the parent can come and go as they please and give as much as they can, and, participate as much as they can. And I think we have to find a new model to serve both our children and our elders. And why not put them together? I mean, that to me is a match made in heaven.
Brilliant. Exactly. Because they're not all totally incapacitated. Everybody has a gift. Now, part of the trouble is that they drug those elderly people. And so they're not with it. I remember visiting my my grandmother in the care home where she was going to live the last moments of her life. We didn't know. And you'd go in there to visit. Nobody had a mind. Everybody's like out of it, glazed over. They talk nonsense. When you go
Yeah.
by them, there's no reception. You try to say something to someone, there's nothing goes in. My grandma had her mind. That was something I'm like, wow, you're unique in here. And she didn't allow there to be more, she had a lot of pain, but she didn't allow herself to take so much medication that she would be out of it. She didn't like that, luckily, and didn't allow herself to just totally numb out in the process. But she suffered a lot of pain unnecessarily. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, just based on what the poison that gets stuck in people's body. And then I was going to say just a little bit about the resentment, which is a very clear nurturer's shadow. And it's a highly intensely suppressed one, because you shouldn't be resenting and be angry and sometimes even be hating the people that you're helping. So this was our first class to look at the nurturer's pain and the nurturer's resentment, and start to let that go, admit it to yourself. I was even afraid to put that out in some of the messages about the course, that, well, people won't see it about themselves. They'll argue and say no. But I think there's a certain readiness now, that there's been enough suffering already. They have felt and seen that, the dread of going to help so and so or whatever it is. And I think people are more ready than ever. I'm watching them take risks like unbelievable and beautiful. And even though we're in a group and they're going to be seen for all of this, but everybody's in the same boat, right? We all have experienced that. So how can you blame anybody, or even blame yourself, which to me is a bypass for the healing?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if there's any other subjects that you wanted to talk about. I think I've kind of handled mine. I was going to say one thing just about how being in a caring profession itself can be a boundary. It can also be how you don't have boundaries. So it's not a given just that you become valued for your role as a nurturer, but that, sometimes people, they help all day long, and then they don't have time for their own basic things, or they don't have, they can't make a living because they're so focused on other people. And that was the part for me, that I knew my work had to be a good and healthy environment, that when I go to work, it has to actually work for me, and not just be a pause on my care, but actually be integrated in the care. And that's what I noticed, and people are discovering in the course, that when they partner with each other, this was one of the big subjects for the course, to put them with partners so they had a place to practice good boundaries that might not exist in other places of their life. And they're discovering so much joy, not in just in having that person there to support them and help them deprogram, but that they notice their own energy can potentially rise, and they can heal along with that person. So I'm pretty happy about that. And then yeah, just I don't, excuse me, don't know if I had any more questions about that, but as a business coach, I like to geek out on business. You're an amazing entrepreneur. You're somebody who's just like rocking it. I often watch you, and like, what is that juju? She's got to just, go for it, put yourself out there, be of great service, provide a lot, and and take care of people in the process. Is there anything else you'd want to say about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone has their role to play here, right? And we have, there's a lot changing now. There's a lot where we have to step up now. We can't fall into old patterns. I think the luxury of that is gone. Just the pace of things and the signs on the wall, where we are at the end of a society, right? Great societies rise and fall. That's what happens. So we know that they are moving things in a different direction, knowing that this is coming. And this is a sea change for us. And it's really up to us how we get, out of the public eye into the private domain as much as we can, working with our own communities, building communities together. We have the Soul Shine Festival coming up here in Ontario. Are you coming to that this time?
I
This
don't
year?
have a plan so far. No, no. Yeah, I might. I'm all for it though, in total support.
Well, it's a different modeling is why I'm saying, because they're approaching it whereas everyone comes in as a community member and a volunteer. So everyone is participating. So the dynamic is different. So typically festivals will have headliners, musical headliners, speakers, these sorts of things, workshops, etc. And then you come in passively, you pay your fee, you passively now are participating by listening, watching, and getting entertained, becoming entertained by things, right? But this is different. This is, you're one of the same. We are all working together to grow, to learn, to have skills, to collaborate, to take the information further, to bring it to our communities, where it's about team building and communication skills and how to heal our wounds so that we don't project them onto other people, how to accept our pain, how to transmute our pain. This is the more functional version of our gatherings, because it's wonderful to gather and we connect. But now, how are we going to really, really form community, which has been something I've been interested in and searching for a long time. Like, what is the way of community that doesn't fall into weird hierarchical structures, cults, and other types of forms of strange worship and things, and pedestaling and stuff, where everybody feels worthy and everybody feels valued. And everybody has a role to play and something to offer, and inviting people to step up, to participate and not just be a passive bystander of information, or just to get information so you can get something for yourself that you think you're maybe going to need in the moment of like excitement. You might think that that's, the be all end all. And then it comes down to, oh, well, but it's still here, me in my little box scrolling on my phone, So we need to step up, is what I'm saying. And there's challenges to that, of course, because you have to face the wound and you have to integrate and you have to really be a strong mirror for people in a loving way. It's hard to do sometimes because people will react to you when you're mirroring for them. When you're in your pure light, when you're in your strength and in your true self, it naturally does happen. And I think it's a part of a protection mechanism. So if someone's just constantly projecting onto your mirror, they'll run eventually, or they'll accept that that's what's happening and they'll see it as themselves, like the Ho'oponopono approach. And they'll be grateful that someone's holding a shine to them, that they're able to see their woundology and go through the pain of integration and acceptance, which is where we all need to be now. And I really feel we need to be more compassionate. And just to mention like what has happened, lately in the media, one of the goals here is to make us demoralized and hate, and also wish death upon people and this kind of thing, which we must not go there. We must resist this is the gig, okay? To make us so desensitized to these things that we become also violent and aggressive and hateful in these lower energies. And it's really important that we pick it up a notch, okay? And like, if you don't like someone, right, for whatever reason, the first step is look at why, look at yourself, look at where your triggers are, integrate your triggers and these sorts of things. And then if it's a dynamic leader, then you don't like them, and of course they're part of the agenda and all this kind of stuff, is hating them or wishing death upon them, is that really healthy? Because I've learned in this place that anything you wish upon another comes to you. And so if you wish good things for that individual, you will reap good things ultimately. And if you wish terrible things, good luck with that. And so if we are the higher minded, what would we give to a very damaged, hurt, lost individual? Would we beat them with a stick? We would show them love. We would show them the nurturer, right? We would invite them into their peace. We would invite them into themselves. We wouldn't, and anyway, even at a distance, send love. Obviously, these people need love. I mean, why would they go on about all these things like in this way, right? It's lack of love. It's lack of care and compassion. And it doesn't mean you have to go out and do anything specific. Just, I'm talking energetically. You can send love instead of sending hate. And I think that's a really important point, of, the challenges that we face. Anytime we feel pulled and triggered into a negative thought pattern or a judgment, to step up into, I'm going to send them love. I'm going to feel peace within myself. I'm going to find the them in me and integrate that, or love that, or imagine them as a little child and I'm cradling them in my arms where they feel safe. These kinds of things. This is like the spiritual nurturer, instead of whatever is going on out there, which is even to the point where I don't want to post on social media anymore because it's so aggressive. People are just so pent up with their stress that they blow it out on other people. And they really have to get that, looked at. Okay. So I just want to make mention to that, that we need to be around people who have done this work. So that's what's happening. I find I'm becoming attracted, and people are attracted to me who are also grounded, real in themselves. They're in integrity. They speak their truth. They bring concerns to you. They are mature in their interactions, and we have to lead the way through this energy. And so the more that we do this and stay around people who are like this, and we lift each other, we will become very strong. And then the others that come, we will be able to nurture them through that process, because we will have our own community support. It won't be just one practitioner or one individual trying to lift someone, trying to get them there, right? Which is just not the way. It'll be a group dynamic, and we're just trying to support and lift them. And, if they do something, say, oh, did you realize this about yourself? Or did you see that this is what you did? Let's hold space for it. What are you feeling in this moment? This sort of thing. And that will get us to where we need to be, rather than this divide and conquer thing that we keep falling for. Like every single time they do a PSYOP, we're like, here we are again, And yeah, sure, it's fine to talk about it. People have to talk about it. People have to understand it. But the speculation in our community is out of control. The logic's gone. The histrionics are up. No. This is a challenge. Take the challenge. The challenge is this thing happened. Where are you at with it? And ultimately, the simple answer is probably the answer. And it doesn't really matter if it was the fake blood or real blood, or a fake attempt or a real attempt. Irrelevant. It was a drama one way or another. Whether they missed or they didn't, it was still part of it. And to get us into this place where we're arguing, disagreeing, wasting time, toiling over it, all this kind of stuff. And we just... And like I said, it's fine to discuss it, but let's discuss it from a place of a higher place. Let's discuss it from, okay, we see the tactic. Cool. Do we care about the details? No, not really. Irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. We just know the game. We know what they're playing at. I mean, they could have assassinated Trump 10 times over in many different ways, quietly and silently. Did they want to blow his head up in TV and incite a civil war? Maybe. Did they really actually miss because, of chance? Maybe. But again, where does this get us? Nowhere. It's ultimately, they're making drama for us in our face and shoving it in our face, because it's a play. So let's step away from that game altogether and build our networks, our communities, and our families, and focus there first, rather than this, fighting against the New World Order agenda. There's nothing to really fight against. It's us loving and changing our frequency and getting into where we can take control of essentials like food, resources. This is like, I have all kinds of resources that I feel really strongly about. And I feel happy that I did that, because I'm not in the same position as a lot of people because of that, right? Because I saw the writing on the wall early, and I began to look at food security. I began to look at the money system and diversifying things and on, right? And so we have to step up now to it. So I hope that people are ready or willing to to do the work. It's not for the lazy. It's not for the faint of heart. Okay. And not everybody's going to be able to necessarily do it without guidance. But those who feel guided and who feel like it's time for them, I invite them to, step it up, do the work. I really want to promote the Undo app. Because it is the most helpful form of meditation that I have ever experienced. Okay. Because we tend to try to have blank thoughts or no thoughts, or, when we meditate, but I've experienced now we have to dive into our discomfort. That is the only way out of this. And so this particular app that I use, it helps you to trace the root cause of any sensation at all. It could be physical, mental, emotional, doesn't matter. And the more we dive into it, it's like the same thing with childbirth, right? I mean, the more you resist the pain, the more pain you have. The sooner you go into it and dive into it and explore it, those are where the answers lie. So if anyone's interested in this, it's undoapp.com, and I have a code YUMMY23 that will get you a month off. But there's a free trial for anybody who wants to get going on that. It's truly life-changing. I've had people heal like complex pain just doing this type of scanning of the body and going into the pain and then tracing it where the real root is and finding out what it even was about. And it could be something totally unrelated or something you might not even imagine was part of, the suffering. And so I want to encourage people to be brave, be courageous, and step into the discomfort, own the discomfort. Don't keep running away from it. Don't keep, chasing the next whatever bird in the sky, right? This is the work, and it's not for the lighthearted, and you're obviously, people who are obviously tuning into this, they have what it takes, or they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be in this place in this time now to be invited to do this work. So yeah, I wanted to make mention of that. I feel it's really, really critical right now.
Right. Yeah. It's the roads to Rome are many. I don't like that expression very much anymore, roads to Rome.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure and let people know we did intend to do this interview before my Nurture Care course started, where I'm helping people deprogram the nurture. My vision for this is a culture of mutual care. And it doesn't matter what kind of society that you're trying to build, or how great your land is, or how great your skills at growing food or making hemp bricks or whatever it is. If you cannot get along with people, if you cannot have a clean, caring relationship with other people, then you're not going to survive it. You're not going to make it emotionally through. You're going to bail every time it gets difficult. And so, yep, definitely, whatever it takes. But I would love to invite you to, since the course is already 2 weeks in, and we have our there's 2 weeks of the course left, so there's lots left. But what I was going to do is share a link to sign up for the course, plus a link. If someone could tell me if that link works. I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of copy and paste issues over here. And because 2 of the live classes have passed, they're not missed, by the way. Everything's been recorded, so it's all available. The recordings, the workbooks, the private forum where people are discussing the material, asking questions, and getting to know partners and working with partners. All of that is still available. And since 2 classes have passed, I created a code. It's not called, but it is the word Amandha, spelt like your name, Amandha. So if you click that link in the show notes there, it's actually not show notes, it's here in the chat, and then use the code Amandha, that you'll receive 20% off the course, just since it's a little bit late on the start. So there's 4 great modules. The first is about going from crashing to crushing, so that you can handle that pendulum swing where you give full on and help everybody, and then you have to spend a few months licking your wounds and telling everyone to get away. So the breakthrough on that, and what self-care really means. People are creating self-care manifestos, really good. They're creating goals, but first they're learning how to release the pain and the resentment that sits on top of what would naturally be the goals. And then the second module, as I talked about, we help people to, or I help people to let go of that need to be needed and the programs that hold it in place. Because again, you can see the patterns, but you might not have a breakthrough despite your best intentions. The same pattern might show up in different relationships as you go. Next week, we're working on boundaries. What is that? The solid art of boundaries, and beyond the just say no kind of thing that is so surface and so doesn't work. Policies are absolutely useless for nurturers to just say, I don't do this anymore, or I don't do that anymore. But to learn to be aware and know yourself and know what's programming and know what's life force, what's actual care, so you could create boundaries in every moment of life, not just this like book of what you do and don't do. And then finally, what is the actual cure for the nurturer is purpose, right? If you have a clear trajectory, you know why you're here on earth, you know how you help, you know who you help, you know why you help, and what you do when you help, then you really narrow it down. And I'm no longer a mark where people just come after me and ask me, could you help me move? And can you help me, put my couch somewhere else? Or can you help me this and do an errand for me? Or it doesn't happen anymore because people are aware that I help in a certain way. And it has really saved me from being purposeless and feeling like my care and service is meaningless. That's the ultimate poison for the nurturer, is giving everything and feeling like there's no meat in there of any kind to grow and feed on. So like I said, the first two modules are totally available. You get instant access to them in the forum, and you probably end up with a new best friend in the process, because people working together in my world always stay together somehow. I'll hear years down the line, oh yeah, we did a trip together and we had a sleepover. I just heard some of my students say. I also want to mention that my coaching certification called Journey Code to Decode, and it's the same work, going very deep with yourself, but learning to be the coach and the one who is taking care of others, but in a professional context. It's a 7-month training, very, very thorough. It's not for people who are brand new to looking at themselves and, doing some kind of inner work at all. I have just opened up, if you're already in my email list, you would have got an email from me yesterday to getting more information and talking to me about it. Spots are totally limited. It's not a big training at all. I am training apprentices in the moment, so we could do more trainings in the future. But if that's something you want to do, you can go to my website, bethmartins.com, and fill out the form saying you want me to give you a call about that. And any help sharing that out also would be great of assistance, because I managed to have this overlap between the Nurture Cure and Journey Code happening at the same time. So I would love your assistance with that. And thank you so much, Amanda, for being here. I'm really grateful that you made the time. I know your life is extremely full. You've got a lot going on. And is there anything that you want to leave people with, a message or something that they could do to go and join your private association, for example, or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where we're at now, but I think we're over 1,000 people right now at Yummy.Doctor. And I mean,
Wow.
what's really cool is that when I was at Music and Sky, which I couldn't walk like 2 steps without someone coming up to me, which was great, but it was just hard to get to places. And I heard from many, many people who were very grateful from the benefits of the membership and the teachings and the connection with the community, that they understand a lot of the principles of health, and they have been able to employ it in their own lives successfully and their families' lives successfully. And now what's happening naturally is like this grassroots effect where they'll have a friend and they'll say, oh, have you read Amanda's book, Healing with DMSO? Do you know what DMSO is? Do you know how to use some of these tools in emergency medicine, or how to stop a heart attack or a stroke, or these sorts of, and it's just spreading and spreading like very nicely. And I really was excited because that was the goal. The whole goal was that empowerment. And then that individual feels compelled now through their experience to share it with another. So that person doesn't need to watch my videos necessarily or do any of that, right? They're going to get that information out through their community representative that knows this and that can help them through, and that takes them out of the hospital system, removes them from too many doctors, and gets them off the pharma drugs and all of the things that need to happen. And so I was really, really, really happy to get that feedback, because that's exactly what the goal was, and it's working. So yeah, I invite everyone, into this community, and also like what you're doing is really important. What that course and all of the different levels of integration are really important right now, for any type of individual, but especially obviously those who are leaders and business owners and healer types and this sort of thing. So thank you for doing and building what you've been building, Beth. I appreciate your work, and I share it all the time with people, and encourage them to do this, to face it, and to go in. So I just wanted to mention that, and thank everyone for today, and thank you, Beth, for hosting. As always, you're always doing some interview or another, and I hope you're taking your own self-care advice, and have a good life, good balanced life.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, someone did a reading for me, Topher Gardner, and he actually saw, without me saying anything, he said, you spend most of your time that you're not working taking care of yourself. And he was like, that's all I do. I work and I take care of myself. See my kid,
Great.
have a meal. Yeah, it's like, because you gotta, you said it earlier, you have to, or it doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. God bless you. Thank you very much, Amanda. And thank you everyone in the chat. Hello, Candace, by the way, I didn't get a chance to say hi. And I'll drop this link one more time. Is it the link? So if you'd like to jump in, it's not too late, and then you'll have access to everything in the Nurture Cure. And people are going like gangbusters. Honestly, sometimes I don't know if if they're going to get it, or if it's going to be over people's head, which is not a head subject at all, although it can be. And they're just diving in, taking the biggest risks ever. It's a really beautiful thing. So the link is there in the chat. I will share those in the notes below as well. And then you can use the code Amanda for 20% off, so that you have a little bit of a break there.
And please share that in my Telegram group as well, the Healthy Dose of Truth.
Okay, I will.
For me. Okay.
Yes, I will. I'll do that right away. Okay, have a beautiful rest of your day. I hope I see you soon in the flesh too.
You too.
Okay.
Okay, much love.
Love to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.